So I've gone and made some changes to our force calc script, and there's a few things here that you may not have seen yet, so I'm just going to run through and explain it to you line by line. So a great way to do that will actually be to set a breakpoint and then step through it. So I'll put a breakpoint here on the first line of actual code, which is line number 2, and then I'll press run. And so now you see the arrow indicates that the program is about to run the CLC command. Now you may remember that one from before, but just in case you couldn't remember what this function did, I'll show you a neat little feature. If I press the F1 key on my keyboard, so that was, I put the mouse cursor into the function, so I'll show you that again. So I put the mouse cursor, I clicked right on inside the function CLC, and then I press F1. And so that brings up this little help window which describes the function. So we have here's the name of it, and here's a little one-line description. It says clear command window. And so we can scroll down in here and have a read of the description. So it clears all input and output from the command window, giving you a clean screen. Okay, so that's a description of what this function does, and there's some references here to some other things which might be related, which you can also look up if you're interested. So I'll close that off, and what I'll do is I'll move this over to the side so that you can see the command window and my program at the same time. So now, because I've made this window small, we can't actually see the button, so I now have to press on this to get to the debug features. So what I'll do is I'll be using the keyboard shortcut. So you notice when I've moused over the step button here, it says that the keyboard shortcut is F10 to run the next line. So what I'll be doing is pressing F10 to go to the next line. So if I run that, notice you see the command window was cleared over here. The clear function, remember that one deletes the variable, so I'll just show you the documentation for that. It says remove items from the workspace, freeing up the memory. And so here is the description, which you can read in your own time. So I'll press F10 again to go to the next line, which will be setting the mass. So this is a section of the program that we've seen before, so I'll skip ahead on that. And so now here is something which you haven't seen before. And so this is an if statement. So this is basically how we ask the program to make decisions, to do something depending on a particular condition. So we can actually look up the help for if, pressing F1 in there, and so move that up so you can see it. Here's the help page with some examples, and you can come back and look at those if you like. But I'll explain how it works in this case. So we have the comment up here that says display a message to the user. So that gives us, as the reader, a bit of a hint as to what's about to happen. And so we have this that says if force is greater than 200. And so what this is doing is making a decision. So it's evaluating this particular variable. Now we can see it, because we've paused the program at this point, we can actually see the value by mousing over it, which happens to be larger than 200. So this condition that we see here is true. And so if I press F10 to go to the next line, then you see that what's happened is that it's now, the green arrow has moved to line number 13. And so now we have this function here. So when you are faced with an unknown function, press F1 and have a look at the documentation. And so it says here display text or array displays if blah blah blah. So you can read the description. Let's just run it. So I press F10. Have a look over here in the command window. You see the text has been printed out to the screen. So now if I continue with my program, so I just pressed F10 again, now the program has finished. So most notably, the code here on lines 15 and 16 actually did not run. So what happened was that we ran only the code here on lines 13, on line number 13. We did not run this code down here, and that's the way that this if statement works, is it actually selects a block according to a particular condition. So let's say I change my program. If I make this 5 instead of 55. Now notice that the breakpoint here is grayed out, and the reason for that is that I haven't saved my file yet. So I can save it by going File, Save in here, and so now it's red to indicate that the file has been saved. So now let's run it again. And so I press F10 to step through, so we cleared the window, cleared the variables, create these two, do the calculation. So now let's have a look what we've got here. So the value which is inside the variable force is 49, just over 49, and so this condition here is no longer true. This condition is false. So the value here is in fact less than 200, the opposite of this condition. So if now when I press F10, see it skips over line number 13 and goes down to this else block. So I press F10 again, and so now here we are on line number 15, and prints out force is, so that's our disp function, and then the actual value. So you see here in the command window, that was the output for our program in this case. And so now we're on the end statement, so I press F10 again, and now our program is finished. And so what you've seen here is basically how to have a program make a decision based on a condition which is not known, or not necessarily known at the time which the programmer wrote the code. So we didn't know whether or not this force was going to be greater than 200 at this time, and so we have these two different choices for what the program should be doing according to whichever circumstance it happens to be faced with when it gets to this point. So that's the key thing to take from this screencast, is the way that this if statement block here works. And so you'll get some practice in playing with the if statement in the first lab for this subject.